Well, welcome back to Countdown to Restoration, the daily show that keeps you up on all the problems circling the Biden regime and what it's doing to not only the U.S. but to the world, as they are now taking it to the world stage. As we chronicle and count down to the end of the days of the thief in chief. Yeah, the thief in chief. Yeah. All right, but have a good. Well, one more time. Okay, let's go. Time to go. Get out. All right. No, he's not leaving. Huh. There he goes. All right. He's feeling it. The days when it's over, he's excited every day. He says, "Hey, maybe today." All right. You can catch up on all our shows. YouTube channel, Danny Thompson. Rumble channel, which you're probably on right now, capital D-A-N-W-T. D as in Danny, not D as in band. Okay? The poster child, whom I'm really getting tired of, but it's the best example we have of the stupidity and the desire to change the country of the Biden regime. Dr. Rachel Levine, the Deputy Secretary of Health and Human Services. This person doesn't even know what he is. Anyway, Tammy Wynette knows what he is. Tell me about it, Tammy. Tell us all about it.
Sometimes it's hard to hear. After all, he's just a man. Stand by your man.
Yes, after all, he is just a man. And everybody knows it. Everybody. You're not fooling anybody, Doc. Anyway, of course. Well, what do we have coming up? I'll throw it in with that. Oh, let's just jump ahead. Oh, I have so much on this. It's frightening, ladies and gentlemen. It is frightening what is going on. Did I not get her picture? Oh, man. It's like my hero of the day. Anyway, and 8th grader. Let's see if I have her picture. Where is she? Yeah, there it is. All right. An 8th grader to take on the lies and myths of transgenderism stood up to her school board. 8th grader ripped school proposal allowing boys into girls' locker rooms. An 8th grader getting up there and talking about how it's not right, and they all know the difference on the school board between a boy and a girl, and took it right to them, more than most adults will do. And in the article, one of the lead attorneys of the ACLU to help combat hatred against trans people, because if you don't want a trans girl, which is another way of saying a boy, in your girl's locker room, then you're a person of hate. That's right, you just hate. Because, as he says, nobody's talking about boys going into girls' locker rooms, because trans girls are girls, except with male body parts. What a freak of nature. I'm a girl without any girl parts. Huh? Anyway, but this is what we are doing. I'm going to take some time on this as I do. And I realize it's not just Biden, but they're pushing it. Obama started pushing it. We have totally changed society, and not in a good way. We have changed society, and in the process, as I was thinking about this, and so many things to get to today, of course, Biden's over in the UK, meeting with everybody, and everybody's pretending that he actually knows what he's doing and understands what he's doing and is actually in charge. we have successfully changed the world with the gay message and acceptance, etc., as we will see. But also in doing this, I have come to the realization we have taken away one of their great arguments from the LGBTQIA plus whatever other letter of the alphabet that you desire, because they say people are born that way. Okay, not all. Some just migrate that way. Some have experiences that move them that way. But they say the majority are born that way, and it's not fair to discriminate against them. It's not fair to have expectations for them to be heterosexual because they are born that way, just like I was born liking girls. My wife was born liking boys. Not in the nursery. We didn't even know. Come on. But, they say they're born that way. Well, if that is true, how come there seems to be more today after a decade or more, especially the last 10 years, if not 20 years, of heavy promotion of the gay agenda? See, it's not being birthed that way, it's influence. You know what? If you tell kids, hey, the life to live is a husband, a male husband, a female wife, and having, 2 or 3 kids in a little, a nice little comfortable house in the suburbs with the white picket fence, etc. Guess what? Most of those kids are going to grow up and have that life because you're putting it in them in an early age. Well, if you take that away and you say that's not normal, some people choose that, and you make it all choice, and you promote certain lifestyles, most kids are going to go that way. If popular culture promotes that lifestyle, most people will go that way. If media promotes that lifestyle, it'll go. Entertainment promotes that lifestyle, that's the way it'll go. And this has been known, and this has been a concerted attack on normality in our world, not just in the USA, but across the world. And from that, we're now seeing the benefits being reaped, and it's being reaped on our children who will not have normal lives. And there's so many things coming out this month because it's Pride Month. Well, if you're a little kid, hey, they got a flag, they got a rainbow. Everybody promotes them. It's their month. My parents don't have a month. They're normal. It's like the kids that come back from Christmas vacation and hear all the extra toys that their friends got who have, divorced parents. So they got 2 Christmases plus extra Christmases at all the different grandparents. And you're like, wow, I wish my parents would divorce. It puts ideas in heads. And we're doing this. We told you that, what was it, yesterday or the other day? Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network having gay pride moments and everything else. It's really scary and it's really sad. Nearly 1 in 5 young adults say they're not straight, global survey finds. The survey conducted in 27 countries also found that 4% of those in Generation Z identifies transgender, non-binary, gender non-conforming, or gender fluid. Now, 4%, that's still low, but that's higher than it's been. And these kids, most of them didn't even know what that was. We've indoctrinated them. I keep saying that. That's what we're doing. An increasing number of young adults identify as non-heterosexual and non-cisgender, according to a new global survey from Ipsos. Cisgender, I'll remind those of you who are not fluent in all these terms, such as I, which I had to look up cisgender a long time ago. That's the gender you were born with. All right? You're born a male, you're still a male, you're cisgender. Okay? Not transgender, you're cisgender. The results released Wednesday are based on internet surveys of more than 19,000 people in 27 countries, aging 16 or 18, depending on the country, to 74. The surveys were conducted in the languages of each country. Respondents in Generation Z, which includes people born after 1997, were nearly 4 times as likely than those over 40, 4% compared to 1%, to identify as transgender, non-binary, gender non-conforming, gender fluid, or in another way. Now, see, if this was just the way you were born, the numbers would be about the same. See, this is all indoctrination. They were also the age group most likely to identify as something other than heterosexual. Over 9% of respondents identified as lesbian, gay, bisexual, pansexual, omnisexual, or asexual. For Generation Z, the figure doubles to 18%. And Generation Z is the first full head-on, let's change these kids that we've seen. And that's what they did in schools and everything else. And we're seeing the results of it. Previous surveys of young Americans have pointed to this phenomenon. In a Gallup poll last year, 5.6% of U.S. respondents, overall identified as lesbian, gay, transsexual, transgender, or queer, while 16% of those in Generation Z reported being LGBTQ. Do you see the difference from 5.6 to 16%? We have indoctrinated a generation. It's not just, I have different feelings. No, we have put that in them. The patterns that we see in the U.S. are definitely not unique to the U.S. Nicholas Boyan, Senior Vice President of Public Affairs at Ipsos, said of the higher rate of gender and sexual fluidity among Generation Z. It's a global phenomenon. Worldwide, 1.4% of those surveyed identified as gender minorities, with Sweden 2.9%, Germany 2.5%, and Argentina, of all places, 2.3%. Having the highest percentages of respondents who identify as transgender, non-binary, gender non-conforming, gender fluid, or in another way. What other way is there? South Africa, 0.3%, and Belgium, 0.5%, had the lowest. What in the world is going on in Belgium? What's wrong with those people? Of course, a lot of Arabs there due to migration. India, 17%, Brazil 15%, with Spain 12%, had the highest percentages of respondents who identified as non-heterosexual. China and South Korea had the lowest. Of course, Asian cultures are not as accepting sometimes, and in China, you can get in a lot of trouble for being gay. Worldwide, 42% of survey respondents said they have a gay or lesbian relative, friend, or colleague, while 24% said they know someone who is bisexual, 10% said they had known someone who is transgender, and 9% said they know someone who is non-binary, gender conforming, or gender fluid. The likelihood is higher among women than among men in all 4 groups. There is a wide national variation in Brazil, for example. 66% report having a gay or lesbian relative, friend, or colleague, but in Japan and South Korea, the number is only 7%. When it comes to speaking out on behalf of LGBTQ people, nearly 1/3 of all respondents around the world said they had done so. Consistent with other findings, the survey found that Gen Z is much more outspoken than older generations, with 40% saying they have spoken out against anti-LGBTQ prejudice. 11% of respondents across all 27 countries reported having attended a same-sex wedding, from over 20% in Mexico and Argentina to 1% in Russia. Yeah, Russia still doesn't put up with that, and same-sex marriages are illegal. That's high in Mexico, you know. Used to, in Latin cultures, homosexuality was very much looked down on. So they have done an amazing job getting this across in Latin countries. The survey asked about participation in pro-LGBTQ events like pride marches. Globally, 13% of all respondents said they had attended such an event, including 54% of lesbian and gay respondents and 10% of heterosexuals. In Australia, more than 20% of respondents reported having attended an event in support of LGBTQ rights, but in Russia, only 1% did. Yeah, you can get your head smashed there. I'm not surprised that Russia stands out, said Emil Indborg, an associate senior lecturer at Stockholm University and an expert on Russia. Edinburgh, who was not involved in the survey, said the low level of participation in pride events in Russia is due in part to the country's so-called gay propaganda laws, I guess. Pride parades are banned in Russia since 2013, as are public expressions in favor of LGBT rights, he said. The law not only affects activists, Edinburgh said, it also targets so-called social media and any kind of public information, including sexual education information. And so that will tell you everything you need to know. In these countries where it's outlawed, it's very low. In countries where it's promoted, it's very high. The most harmful effect of this law, the Russia's laws, the way it impacts young people, he said, it really has put a harsh form of censoring on young people, especially limiting their ability to speak out about their sexuality and gender identity. You notice how they turn it. All these laws keep people from being what they are. And really, it keeps everybody from indoctrinating them to be something they're not. Dr. Rachel Levin is not a female. And all of the hair and all of the pronouns and all of the perfume and hormones in the world is not going to make he a she. It's not going to happen. All of the cartoons, all of the nice commercials, all of the laws is not going to make he a she. It's not going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. It's fantasy. Giving him equal rights, which is unequal rights, because he has rights as a he, but now he wants rights as a she, and wants everybody to accept it. And again, this is the whole problem. If you want to be that way, fine. We don't all have to accept it and march to your tune. Except that's what so many in the world want. It's not just, okay, go out there, be a woman if you want, be a pretend woman, be gay, be lesbian, just stay away from pedophilia. And if you want to be gender fluid, where some days you're a man, some days you're a woman, fine. Go live your life. But don't make us play along. Why? Why do we have to play the game? You know why? Because they want to change society. That's the whole reason. And this shows it. All right. The survey found that a global majority are in favor of same-sex marriage in only 2 of the 27 countries surveyed, Russia and Malaysia. Researchers found majorities in opposition. Well, yeah, because they're normal. It's sad when Russia is more normal than we are. Edinburgh said same-sex marriage has become a political flashpoint in Russia. Same-sex marriage and sorry, I can't see that, but and parenting have been the main features of the homophobic and stigmatizing discourse of the state. Those issues have been highlighted as the biggest threats. See, again, if you speak out about it, you're bad, because this is what the world wants. Not the emerging world, but what we call the civilized world. Worldwide, women are more likely to support same-sex marriage than men. One's level of education did not play a role in attitudes. Since Ipsos' last global survey of opinions on same-sex marriage in 2013, there has not been a drop in support in any country. There was a growth in support in most countries, with the U.S. having the second highest growth, following Argentina, where support grew by 25%. Latin American countries demonstrated relatively high levels of support for same-sex marriage, with 82% of respondents in Chile and 76% in Mexico in favor of same-sex marriage or some type of legal recognition of gay unions. I have a little control on my screen that you can't see, and sometimes it blocks the words. Jordi Diaz, a professor of political science at the University of Guelph in Ontario, said it is a common misconception that Latin America is uniformly conservative. And you see how they line this out, conservative versus liberal. See, because it is, in a lot of ways, it is political. You have much higher levels of tolerance in Latin America than in the U.S. There's no question about that. He pointed to the long history of gay and lesbian activism in Latin America. Gay and lesbian mobilization in Latin America is actually quite old. The visibility has been there, and these demands have been, out there for a long time. Several Latin American countries, Argentina, Brazil, Colombia, Ecuador, Uruguay, and Costa Rica, have adopted same-sex marriage laws. The laws, Diaz said, have a normalizing effect, increasing support for the policies and acceptance of homosexuality. Just what I'm saying. We are purposefully doing this. We are purposefully changing society. What was once maybe less than 1% of the world has now grown because of laws, because of media, but because of indoctrination. We are, we talk about changing the climate. We're changing the species. And if you stand up against it, you're the horrible one. Support for equal parental rights is also high worldwide, with 61% of respondents saying same-sex couples should have the same rights as heterosexual couples. In only 4 countries, Russia, Malaysia, Poland, and Peru, were there majorities in opposition to adoption by same-sex couples. Overall, the survey found that women are more supportive of parental rights for same-sex couples, and that boomers are more likely to support adoption rights than Gen X. Canada and the Netherlands stand out as having the most support for the parental rights of same-sex couples, with 81% of Canadians and 83% of Dutch in favor of equal rights of same-sex parents. Around the world, a majority support lesbians, gays, and bisexuals being open about their sexual orientation, 51% in favor compared to 16% in opposition. There is strong support for laws banning discrimination at 55% worldwide, but support is more muted or public affection, with 37% supporting and 27% opposing. So it's like, okay, as long as you keep it behind closed doors, I guess. There is also global support for openly lesbian, gay, and bisexual athletes on sports teams. In the U.S., 53% of respondents support athletes being out, similar to the global average of 50%. The same level of support does not appear to exist for transgender athletes competing in accordance with their gender identities. On average, across the 27 countries, as many respondents support as oppose the idea, 32% compared to 32%. Yeah, because everything changes then. I mean, if you want to come out and say you're gay or lesbian, that doesn't move you to a different category. The U.S. is one of the countries where there is the most opposition, said Boyan of Ipsos, with only 27% of U.S. respondents in support. In the U.S., state legislators have introduced a slew of bills this year to prohibit transgender athletes from competing in school sports. No, they just have to play on the team of their biological sex. Boyan acknowledged that global surveys have their limitations. In particular, he cited the difficulty in crafting a survey to adequately capture the diversity of people's gender identifications. In designing the questionnaire, we realize that no matter what we do, we will miss people. We are aware of the challenges of using labels. I mean, this is just sad. Another issue is translation, Boyan said. We did not use the word queer in the survey because it doesn't really translate in a lot of languages. Relatedly, the survey was designed in English by researchers based in the US and the UK. This is a survey that is designed by Westerners, Boyan said. The survey does not claim to be nationally representative in all countries. In countries where the internet is not as accessible, for example, the survey captures the opinions of a relatively urban and digitally connected group, which you would think to be more liberal in most ways. One big question about the trends that we see among younger people is whether the patterns we see in Gen Z will stick over time, Boyan said, or whether it just reflects youth, and as time goes by, they may have more defined identities. One would hope. And this, it is very well written, but it is written, you've really got to read it, and it was even longer than what I couldn't do both of these. But this article in National Review, you can find it online, How Transgender Ideology Takes Children Hostage. Troubled kids are being encouraged to put their own lives on the line for a misguided worldview. And it goes to talk about how many of the rules for helping to determine if a kid can handle no longer being their birth sex, are rules that are for mainly men who want to go from man to being woman, not transgender, but transsexual. And these are adult men who supposedly have their lives figured out, etc. And the article goes on to show how obviously kids aren't prepared to make these decisions. And even the Swiss are saying they'll no longer help children to change their gender identities through hormones and puberty blockers and etc., except in extreme cases. I don't know what. They just stand in the corner and scream because they can't be a boy or a girl while they're a boy or a girl. But that is a rising issue. What are we doing to the kids? And that's my whole thing. If you're an adult and you go be whatever, just leave everybody else alone. All right? But we're changing culture to accommodate what? It was a very small percentage. See, there's something behind this. It's as most of these rationales play out, what ends up being behind it is breaking down the family, and above that, turning the world from Christ. You can argue with me all you want. That is usually the two reasons. It's not just acceptance, because this is beyond acceptance. This is recruitment. This is indoctrination. This is changing societal norms, not to the point of acceptance, but to causing people to enter in a new lifestyle. All right? It's like what happened. You know, kids started watching movies, you know, back in my day in the 70s. I was born in 61, but, you know, I really didn't know a lot about stuff till in the 70s. Started watching movies because, you know, and movies were reflecting the sexual revolution and what got in our mind. Even, you know, obviously boys wanted to be with girls, girls wanted to be with boys. Understand what I'm saying? But what got in our mind, intercourse is part of the dating process now. And that has grown to what? We don't even get people on the first date move into each other. See, you change society through media, through saying, oh, it's okay now. There's no stigma attached to it. And so it's always to break down the family. I mean, all of this is designed. You can argue with me. You can say, no, you don't know what you're talking about. It's just normal life. If this was just normal life, it wouldn't be like this. Dozens of LGBTQ students at Christian colleges sue the U.S. Education Department, hoping to pressure Equality Act negotiations. I don't know how that's going to touch Congress, and I don't have time to go into this. This is confusing, and I think it's a trap. Justice Department says it can defend religious schools' exemption from anti-LGBTQ discrimination laws. I don't know how, because they're pushing the LGBTQ discrimination laws. So I don't know that. They're saying they can get up in court and say, no, this school has a right to be exempt from LGBTQ discrimination laws, Title IX exemptions, etc. I don't know how that works. I don't understand, and that's a good article. I don't remember if I have where it was from, the Washington Post. So you can go there and find that. I'm sorry, I felt the survey was important because you need to know what we're doing to people. You know, and the Biden regime and these people, secular Democrats of America, they're behind a lot of this. And the people from there, even before they were back in power, are the ones pushing this. And government started under Obama. And, you know, even before then, President Bush had openly gay people serving in his administration. And on one hand, okay. Except what does that do? It pushes it. It pushes it. And then, of course, more and more in schools. And ladies and gentlemen, here you are. And a lot of people think, oh, it's not hurting anything. It is. It is. Go to seculardems.org, find out their stances on everything. And, so many in-depth articles that we're not going to have time to get to today. This one is interesting, and you say, what does that have to do with anything? Because media and liberal governments in this country especially, and across Europe, have been working on this. They have been presenting the Palestinians as the moral high ground in Israel, as the beaten down, trodden upon people. They won't, which Israel will not allow. Why? Because the purpose of Israel is to be a Jewish state. Okay? It's the only country in the world that was formed to be a particular identity. And if they allow all the Palestinians to vote, it will no longer be a Jewish state. They have to protect the reason they exist as a homeland for Jews. Jordan, which was created and a royal family created and everything to be the Palestinian homeland, but that's not good enough. Why? Because Jerusalem, because again, we have biblical principles here. We have biblical conflict here that the world will not realize, will not recognize. And so we're at this point. But they have been working on Jewish people, especially in Western countries, to start turning away from the Jewish people in Israel to favoring the Palestinian cause. And of course, in American Jewry, we have had that for some time. The Jews in Israel don't like it. And there's a lot of Jews in Israel that don't, they favor the Palestinian causes over the Jewish causes, but they're a minority, in some ways. But many Jews in Israel, they really get upset with American Jews' attitudes. And so we are, society, we're changing so many things to fit narratives that aren't true. See, it's not true that that there is a girl born in that boy's body. That nature made a mistake somehow and he should have been a she. That's not true. That's not correct. That's a lie. Okay? And we can go on, but you understand what I'm saying. It's also a lie that the Jews are the aggressors and the occupiers of Israel. The world gave them that land and it was theirs. And they had to fight from the moment they set foot on their land. But we are changing that slowly, but it's happening. Young Jewish Americans question boomer consensus on Israel. Progressive, millennial, and Gen Z Jews are less likely to agree with U.S. support for Israel, a point of tension for Democrats. You remember many Democrats, and I don't have time to go into that article, so find it on the Washington Post. Was that where that was? Did I say that? Where is that? I don't have it listed. Let me see. I think I found it on Apple News. I'm sorry. I will try to find where that is from and let you know. Or do I have the ending page? No. Okay, so bottom line of the whole article, American Jews, while younger American Jews are more willing to question U.S. backing of Israel, most of the public and 3/4 of the Democrats, agree with the traditional approach. That says Biden's approach. Let me find where this article is. Contact the authors of this story, David Wallner in New York at Bloomberg. Okay, at Bloomberg. So it was on Bloomberg News. Sorry about that. I usually have where they're from. So you can find that article in Bloomberg News. To go along with this, group of House Democrats condemn Representative Ilhan Omar, accusing her of comparing U.S. and Israel to Hamas and the Taliban, because her and other members of the squad are very anti-Israel. And so very much pro-Hamas, which is a terrorist group. And so Democrats are getting on to her, and she got upset because she thought they just could have said it to her and not published it. Well, she publishes all her stuff. This is extremely frightening because they won't leave it alone. A growing number of critics raise alarms about the Electoral College, which shows they do not understand anything about the U.S., and if they do, they want to change that. This is the article. I didn't do the whole thing, obviously. It's hard to make an intellectual argument in favor of the Electoral College. Most people feel that the person who gets the most votes should become president. And after all, that's how we run every other election in this country, says Jesse Wegman, the author of Let the People Pick the President. Well, what Jesse doesn't understand or does and wants to change is that the election of president is not a national contest. It is a state-by-state contest, and the winner of each state, you tally the winner of each state to get the winner. So if you win the majority of states, not the majority of votes, the majority of states, you are the president. So, see, it's a total misunderstanding of how it works, or they do understand, and just want to change it because they know that would favor more liberal candidates. But ladies and gentlemen, the Electoral College system, see people think we're just a nation. We're not. And we're so far from this. But the truth of who we are is we are a group of states that have a federal government supposedly and constitutionally for those issues that states can't manage on their own. We're supposed to be however many independent states together with one common purpose with a small federal government, and we've gotten so far away from that people don't even understand who and what we are. And so there you have it. This is bad. This is by and large part because of the American Rescue Plan and other Biden policies. Consumer prices surge 5% annually, most since August 2008. And everybody recognizes, too, that a lot of it is governmental policies. U.S. consumer prices increased in May at the fastest annual rate in nearly 13 years as the economic comeback from COVID-19 lockdowns continues to build momentum. The Labor Department said Thursday, that's today, that the Consumer Price Index in May rose 5% year over year, hotter than the 4.7 increase that was anticipated. The reading was above last month's 4.2% print. Prices jumped 0.6% month over month, quicker than the 0.4% increase that was expected by analysts surveyed by Refinitiv. The annual data has a base effect skew due to the decline in prices that occurred at the start of the pandemic. I don't know where prices were going down at the start of the pandemic. I must have been in another country. Okay, because I remember prices going up, maybe in big ticket items. Deutsche Bank issues dire economic warning for America. Not that anybody's listening in government. We have a little video and then another page of the article, which this is in The Hill. Very good, in-depth article.
The Hill's opinion contributor Chris Talgo writes in a new op-ed, quote, "As the world economy awakens from the 15-month slumber caused by the pandemic, Deutsche Bank has launched a series of research articles to spark debate and discussion about pressing post-pandemic economic issues." On June 7th, Deutsche Bank issued its first report of the new series titled, quote, "Inflation, the defining macro story of this decade." According to the report, quote, "U.S. macro policy and indeed the very role of government in the economy is undergoing its biggest shift in direction in 40 years. In turn, we are concerned that it will bring about uncomfortable levels of inflation." Talgo continues, quote, "That could be deemed an understatement considering that the U.S. economy is already experiencing, quote, uncomfortable inflation."
So the biggest shift of governmental policy toward the economy in 40 years. And that is not good. Consider, based on the most recent inflation report from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, in April, the Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers rose 0.8% on a seasonally adjusted basis, rising 4.2% over the last 12 months. An annual inflation rate of 4.2% is more than uncomfortable, but the looming threat of inflation seems to have fallen on deaf ears in Washington, D.C. over the past year, as Congress has supercharged spending to levels unseen since World War II. As Deutsche Bank notes, the current fiscal stimulus is more comparable with that seen around World War II. Then U.S. deficits remain between 15 to 30% for 4 years. While there are many significant differences between the pandemic and World War II, we would note that annual inflation was 8.4%, 14.6% and 7.7% in 46, 47, and 48 after the economy normalized and pent-up demand was released. And the article goes on, and it is very good if you want to do some looking. Go to the Hill. You can find them online. They also have an app. And it is a very detailed argument all the way to showing what the rise in inflation can do to a country. And some of you are old enough to have lived through the late 70s and early 80s as we suffered from great inflation. You might remember 22% rates on loans. And I'm not talking about just credit cards. I'm talking about bank loans. And of course, savings accounts had high yields and everything. That was all because of inflation. And of course, everything else went wrong. And then we voted in Ronald Reagan, started getting things back to normal. One of the, if not the greatest president of anybody's lifetime. Jobless claims dropped to new pandemic low. 376,000 Americans filed for first-time benefits for the week ending June 6. I think that's what it said. The data shows 376 people filed for first-time benefits for the week ending June 5th, a decrease in 9,000 compared to the 385,000 people who filed last week prior. This marks the lowest level since March 14, 2020, when initial jobless claims were 256,000. Meanwhile, 3.499 million Americans were receiving traditional state unemployment benefits the week of May 29, a decrease of 258,000 from 3.771 million the week before. So again, another lowest level since March of 2020. They reported that job openings hit a record 9.3 million in April. Layoffs dropped to 1.4 million, the lowest in records dating back to 2000, while 4 million quit their jobs in April, another record and a sign that they are confident enough in their prospects to try something new. U.S. economy added 559,000 new jobs in May, missing economist estimates of 650, and the unemployment rate dropped from 6.1 to 5.8. The United States is still short 7.6 million jobs from where it stood in February 2020. So, that and this is quite disturbing. Half of the pandemic's unemployment money may have been stolen. That's right. Criminals may have stolen as much as half of unemployment benefits the U.S. has been pumping out over the past year, some experts say. We know this happened in Washington State. It's happened in California. But what do? We promoted, the Biden administration hired the people that were over these programs. They got hit so hard by fraud. What's happening? They're stealing identities, filing for unemployment, and, and finding ways to cash it in and cash it out. Organized crime has jumped into this in a large way. And so a lot of the money is just going bye-bye. What else is going bye-bye, Johnny Rivers? All right, we're just going to have to give some highlights. I didn't anticipate it being this busy. This is serious, and you may want to check ABC News and other outlets if you had COVID and are experiencing you're already over it, but you're experiencing such symptoms as sudden unplanned weight loss, extreme thirst, and fatigue. The COVID-19 virus can cause diabetes. new study finds. So that is not good. I don't think so. And, you know, let's see where we're at. Also, this U.S. Surgeon General warns unvaccinated people are at risk from a potentially more dangerous COVID-19 variant, the one from India. So they want you to know that. And this, oh, we should have done the unaccompanied minors thing, but Biden administration vaccinating migrant children against COVID-19. And some people are wondering, hey, how do they have the right to do that? But they're doing it. Hi, John. Here's John Kerry. So that tells you that it's climate change time. You might remember this. For some reason, it's popping up on, on news services back when President Trump withdrew the U.S. from the Paris Agreement. I guess to compare it to Biden's bend over backwards to climate change approach, which is ruining not only us but the whole globe. The Nord Stream 2 Russian natural gas pipeline going to Europe, namely Germany. But the Biden regime is trying to sell Nord Stream 2 approval as a green energy initiative. They are telling Ukraine, which greatly opposed it, they're telling them to, you know, now you can concentrate on more green jobs and green, you know, energy things and all of that. And just let Russia have the natural gas. You show them by going green. So let's put a rosy spin on it. Oh, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Where do we go? We don't have a lot of time and there's so much to do. You know what? I realize this is about Biden and, but it's really about what he's doing. I can show you his schedule and all that. But you can find that on Fox News and other places. There is so much more. This day in history, Nixon started changing the world in a bad way. President Nixon lifts 2 decades-old trade embargo on China and other events. Today in history is what it says. And started the ruining of the world. So many things here, but you know what? Because 2 of the big issues in life are what they're doing with to our kids with the transgender and gay movement and the border. Again, we're just going to have to highlight some stuff. Hannity exclusive. Guatemalan President chides Biden administration for mixed messaging. So Guatemala, after Harris left, Sarah Carter, who is a very good reporter, interviewed the president, and he basically blames the Biden administration for, oh, you're not going to work? Oh, you crumb. For the whole problem because of their messaging. Let's see if I can find this. Secretary Mayorkas, it didn't want to work for me. It did in practice, in you know, rehearsal. But Secretary Mayorkas saying, no, we won't, you know, we're going to reunite people with their families. Let's try it now. No, it's just not going to work. So anyway, I don't know why it does that sometimes. But anyway, Guatemala, as we showed you yesterday, is still blaming, even after Harris's visit. And most people, Democrats and Republicans, are saying that Harris failed miserably and should have stayed home. CBP, the Customs and Border Patrol, announces May 2021 operational update. And so this is the new numbers of what's happening at the border. In May 2021, CBP encountered 180,034 persons attempting entry along the southwest border. This total represented a 1% increase over April 2021. So May's just continuing on. Single adults continue to make up the majority of these encounters. In May 2021, CBP expelled 112,302 individuals under Title 42. Well, that kind of leaves a balance there, doesn't it? CBP continues to expel single adults and family units that are encountered pursuant to CDC guidance under Title 42 authority. 62% of all May encounters resulted in a Title 42 expulsion. Well, that leaves what? 38% are getting in, not counting the ones that, as we showed you, was it yesterday or Monday, that they reckon that nearly 1,000 a day are getting by unnoticed. Encounters along the southwest border of unaccompanied children and single minors from Northern Triangle countries dropped again this month by 23%, with 10,765 encounters in May 2021 compared with 13,940 in April. Encounters of family units from Northern Triangle countries, and this is just saying from Northern Triangle countries, also dropped again, decreasing by 31% to 22,630 in May 2021, down from 32,674 in April. So that's good news, but it's still very, very high, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? The large number of expulsions during the pandemic has contributed to a larger than usual number of non-citizens making multiple border crossing attempts. It means total encounters somewhat overstate the number of unique individuals arriving at the border. 38% of encounters in May 2021 were individuals who had at least one prior encounter in the previous 12 months, compared to an average one-year re-encounter rate of 15% for fiscal years 2014 to 2019. Smuggling organizations are abandoning migrants in remote and dangerous areas, leading to a drastic rise in the number of rescues CBP performs. In May 2021, CBP conducted 7,084 rescues nationwide, and CBP has rescued 35% more individuals in fiscal year 2021 than all of fiscal year 2020. So that's not good. The average daily number of children in CBP custody has decreased significantly. Now, this is just CBP custody, not counting because they moved them to HHS, but listen to this number. Has decreased significantly to 640 in May from 2895 in April. Now, this is the daily number of children in CBP custody. So daily, there are at least 640 kids in CBP custody. 640 a day. I mean, that's a lot. And if you have gotten into the country, whether legally, illegally, but whether you snuck in or just were released, go to Colorado. Colorado is smashing down barriers to help undocumented immigrants live and work. They're opening up state benefits and housing and everything else. So go to Colorado, young man, young woman, young non-binary person. Of course, also along the border, fentanyl seizures skyrocket along U.S.-Mexico border. That's coming in from China, being brought up from the cartel, and then they're doing all the bad stuff with it. Where are we in time, ladies and gentlemen? I've stopped everything else and so many priorities. We've got to get this in. I think this is important. And it shows a whole lot. Nord Stream lobbyists help whip support for Blinken during nomination. Now, Nord Stream was opposed by the Trump administration. Again, the gas line that takes natural gas to Europe. And Trump said, hey, it's enabling Russia. You're spending money on defense from Russia while you're sending money to Russia to build up their aggressive military forces. It's stupid. It doesn't help. And yet Biden ended up approving it. Now this is important because we all know what hell the country went through for non-existent Russia influence over the Trump campaign and administration. Wasn't even there. It was made up. They just jumped on it to keep him from being able to operate. Well, why not here? Exclusive. A Washington, D.C. based political firm that lobbies on behalf of the company behind Russia's Nord Stream 2 pipeline, also helped pressure a key Republican senator to support Secretary of State Anthony Blinken's confirmation, Fox News has learned. And, hey, let's get rid of that senator. The firm, BGR Group, helped orchestrate a letter from Republican members of the national security establishment urging Republican Idaho Senator Jim Risch, the top Republican on the Foreign Relations Committee, to support Blinken's confirmation. The letter coincided with BGR's lobbying efforts in support of the Russian pipeline. Why were they wanting him? Fox News obtained an electronic copy of the letter. The document's metadata shows it was created by Adriana Larson, a senior policy analyst at BGR. Risch was among the roughly couple dozen Republicans who voted to confirm Blinken. While the letter's existence was previously reported by Politico, its full contents and full list of signatories had remained unpublished until this report. Trying to hurry up and get through because we're almost out of time. BGR registered on April 1st, 2020 as a lobbyist for Nord Stream 2 AG on issues related to the U.S. position toward the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Senate lobbying disclosures reviewed by Fox News show since then Nord Stream has paid BGR $240,000 per quarter, or just under $1 million per year, to lobby in favor of the pipeline. Those disclosures show Larson, the policy analyst involved with the letter, does not appear to have been involved in BGR's Nord Stream lobbying efforts. Still, the fact that the same firm lobbying on behalf of the pipeline was also promoting Blinken's confirmation is likely to raise questions from Republicans on Capitol Hill. Blinken is slated to appear before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee on Tuesday, which he did, and as usual, not much came of any of that. Because what do? Biden's not going to fire him, and everybody just says, oh, no, I don't even know what this is about. So Secretary Blinken had no knowledge of any BGR work on behalf of his confirmation. He was not aware of the group's work on behalf of Nord Stream 2, nor was he in contact with BGR regarding it. No, they just wanted him. Why? Secretary has been clear he, like the president, is opposed to the pipeline and views it as a Russian influence project, State Department spokesman Ned Price told Fox News in an email. Rich's office said the letter did not influence his decision to vote for Blinken. The senator had led legislation against Nord Stream 2 pipeline and previously described Biden's decision to waive the sanctions as a gift to Putin that will only weaken the United States' leverage in the lead up to the impending Biden-Putin summit. It is deeply disturbing that this administration canceled the Keystone XL pipeline, which the company that was over that said they're through with it. They're tired of it all. It's not happening anymore. On the first day, killing thousands of U.S. and Canadian jobs, yet it continues to support Russian workers involved in a project that goes against U.S. and European security interests, Reich said after Biden waived the sanctions. President Biden has come under intense criticism for waiving sanctions on the corporation and CEO overseeing the Nord Stream 2 pipeline construction, particularly in light of Biden's decision to block the Keystone XL pipeline, which was projected to create tens of thousands of American jobs before it was scrapped. The Nord Stream 2 deal with Russian President Vladimir Putin's regime will transfer Russian gas to Germany via pipeline running under the Baltic Sea. If completed, this new pipeline would double the amount of natural gas Russia transports directly to Europe and hand an enormous geopolitical victory to Putin. As a practical matter, the physical completion of the pipeline was, I think, a fiat accompli, Blinken said at a House Foreign Affairs Committee hearing Monday, and irrespective of sanctioning that entity and the CEO, that would not, in our judgment, have changed anything in terms of its physical completion. So basically saying it was a foregone conclusion, didn't matter what we did. Blinken, in his testimony Monday, also blamed former President Donald Trump, of course, saying the Biden administration inherited a bad hand on the Nord Stream pipeline. However, the Trump administration firmly opposed the pipeline, which Trump warned would provide Russia with immense leverage over Germany. As he said, yeah, if you don't do what they want, they'll shut off the gas and you'll in the middle of winter and you'll freeze. Blinken said in March that Biden considered the Nord Stream 2 pipeline to be a bad idea. President Biden has been very clear for a long time in his view that Nord Stream 2 is a bad idea, Blinken said in a March news conference. So what I said was that we will continue to monitor actively to complete or certify the pipeline. And if that activity takes place, we will make a determination on the applicability of sanctions. BGR did not return a request for comment. All right. So, and this just makes me wonder, Blinken, are you Putin's American boy?
I really want to come pick you with you. You'll be my American boy.
Just wondering there. My wife liked that one. We used to hear that all the time in Planet Fitness. Anyway. All right, we're going to quickly go to some God formation time. If we can find the lead-in slide to that. Yeah, I'm bad. I know, I'm not nice. Anyway, so Blinken, it was important to them to get in. Why would that be? You know, that would have caused a whole investigation on the Trump administration, wouldn't it? Where are we at? Okay. Rumors abound that Harris is planning her own coup of the Biden regime. She is ready to sit behind the desk. She is ready to tell of his condition, and how will they buy her off is the question. So she is very upset. She had to go to Guatemala and Mexico, and he's going to the UK and Europe and all of that. On the plane, on the Air Force One, they spoke of the need to seem together. They went over the director's agenda and told Joe that he needed to play the part and follow the lines, or he would be moved out. So maybe they're going to use Harris to their advantage, whom they do not want to be president. He isn't ready to cooperate because he feels the part now. But he was warned. He thinks he is president, ladies and gentlemen. He is senile. Susan Rice is investigating a leak in the administration. Susan Rice being one of the true leaders of this country right now. The information could collapse all their plans. She is tracing it to a well-placed source and doesn't know what to do. The person is too high to touch, but they are tired of the inaction and are jealous of the attention. I think that person's Hillary Clinton. I think she would gladly destroy the Biden regime for her own purposes. Of course, it could also be Harris and other people. Who knows? Who knows? Thanks for staying with us. I realize it was a different show, but I think very needed. And please feel free to share this and you know, pray for America. God bless America. Pray for one another. We've got to change the culture in schools. We've got to do that, or we're going to lose so many youth. And that will end up destroying civilization as we know it. I'm not over exaggerating. God bless you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.